So we can use will, be going to, and the present continuous to talk about the future in English. But how do you know which tense to use? Are you ready? There are 3 different ways to talk about the future, and it's very complicated sometimes to know, do we use will, be going to, or the present continuous? So let's start today by looking at when we use will to talk about the future. Now, I'm going to give you a few different scenarios and situations where we use will, but the most common explanation is that we use will when we decide something at the moment of speaking. So we're having a conversation and bam, we make a decision while we are speaking. And if we do that, we use will. Let me give you some examples of this in context. There is a big football game happening this evening, and you say to me, "Hey Greg, do you want to come to my house to watch the game?" And I say, "Yeah, sure." I'm talking, we're having a conversation, and bam, I make a decision and say, "Hey, I'll bring some drinks. I will bring some drinks." Because I make the decision while I'm talking, I use will. Okay, another example is, it's a hot day, so I take my daughter for an ice cream, and the person selling ice cream says to me, "What do you want?" And I say, "I'll have a chocolate ice cream, please. I'll have a chocolate ice cream." So we're having a small conversation and bam, I make a decision while talking, so I use I will. I'll have a chocolate ice cream, please. All right, there are 4 other situations where we use will. One is to make a promise. Like, I know I need to give you £20, but I forgot the money today, but I promise I will pay you tomorrow. I will pay you tomorrow. It's a promise, so I use will. The second situation is a threat. A threat. So the other person could say, "If you don't give me the money tomorrow, I will never lend you money again." It's a threat, so they use will. The third situation is an offer, when you are offering to do something. So I could be sitting in the living room with my wife and I say, "I'll go to the kitchen and get you a drink." I'll go to the kitchen and get you a drink. I'm offering to go to the kitchen, so I use will. And the fourth situation is for a request. A request, when you are asking somebody to do something for you. So, one example of this is at the dinner table, you could say to somebody, "Will you pass me the salt, please? Will you pass me the salt, please?" And yeah, this means exactly the same thing as can you? Can you pass me the salt, please? Will you pass me the salt, please? Okay, there's one more situation where we use will for the future. I'm going to talk about that a little later, but for the moment, we now know that we use will when we make a decision at the time of speaking, when we are making a promise, when we are making a threat, when we are offering to do something, and when we are requesting something. Right, let's now look at the future tense be going to. And the main difference is that we use be going to when there is intention, when we previously have the intention of doing something. So looking back to the examples I talked about when I was talking about when to use will, remember I said to my friend, "I will bring the drinks to the game." Right, so now I could explain these plans with my wife. I could say, "I'm going to watch the game at my friend's house. I'm going to take the drinks." Because these are all things that are going to happen, and they are intentions for the future. I didn't decide those things in the moment of speaking. They are intentions so I use going to. In the second example, I said to the ice cream man, "I'll have a chocolate ice cream, please." Okay, a few seconds later, my wife appears and says, "Hey, what did you order?" And I say, "Well, my daughter is going to have a vanilla ice cream and I'm going to have a chocolate one." I didn't decide it in the moment of speaking, but it's an intention of something that is going to happen in the future. So in that example, I'm talking about the very immediate future. In the previous example, I'm talking about what's going to happen tonight, but we could be talking about something that is going to happen in a few months or years' time. If you have the intention, then we use going to. Okay, now let's talk about making predictions for the future using will and going to, because both of these are correct. I think it's going to rain. I think it will rain. Both tenses are correct. They are both correct predictions for the future, but we don't use them in the same situations. Basically, the rule is that if the prediction is based on an obvious fact, if there is obvious evidence that makes you make the prediction, we use going to. So in this example, we could say, "Wow, look at those black clouds up there. I think it's going to rain." The clouds, the temperature, the black cloud, it's all evidence on which I am basing my prediction, so we use be going to. We use will to make predictions about the future when there is no evidence. So I think it will rain is, okay, it's what you think, but you have no reason, you have no obvious evidence to think that. The sky is blue, but maybe you just have a feeling that the weather is going to change. So you say, "I think it will rain." Okay, that leaves one more tense to talk about the future in English, and that is the present continuous. Yes, we use the present to talk about the future in English, and this is really, really common. So I'm going, I'm meeting, I'm visiting. This is the present continuous, and we use the present continuous to talk about the future when it is a plan. Is it in your diary? Do you have a specific date and time for this plan? If it is, if you've written it in your diary or on your online calendar, if it's a plan that you have made or an appointment, then we use the present continuous. For example, I'm going to the dentist next week. I'm going to the dentist at 2:30. I'm meeting my friends on Friday. It's a plan, it's in my diary, so present continuous. Okay, so a quick summary. We use will to talk about the future when we make a decision at the time of speaking. We also use will to make a promise, make a threat, offer something, or make a request. We use be going to talk about the future when the intention of that thing is already in our minds. We also use going to when we are making a prediction based on real evidence that we can see, but if there's no evidence there, we use will. And finally, we use the present continuous if something is in our diary. If it's a plan or appointment, then we use the present continuous. So leave me a comment below using one of these tenses to talk about the future, and when you have done that, check out those videos next because they also talk about complicated tenses that we have in English. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.